Good evening. Hi. So it's a pleasure to be here. Wow, that's a little bit loud. Is it too loud for you? No, great. So it's not too loud for me. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really happy. I want to thank, first of all, Joe for bringing me over and the Stravis Center for making this possible. And also Passages, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have met, and then, I would not be able to steal any of your time. So I appreciate it. So thank you too, and thank you all for coming. So Joe mentioned a little bit of that. That's actually not the topic of tonight. I will just say that it is an incredible story with everything that happened in Israel in the last 30 years, mainly because it was not planned and it was unexpected. So it's a great case study. I don't know where you're from, but if you have some sort of care for the city you came from, or your state, or your region, this whole idea of how to build an ecosystem is a big, big topic today. I don't need to tell you that, when you go out of school, the city that you live in will win your energy. So cities around the world are fighting for the most precious energy of all, which is you. So they need to build a good ecosystem so that you will go and want to build your careers over there, whether it's Berlin, New York, San Francisco, or London, whatever, Tel Aviv, or more than that, especially if you're in the startup business. So it's a great case study, even if you take Israel out of the equation, because what happened on our side has a lot of lessons for other places around the world. So it's something that I'm super passionate about. But it's not the issue of tonight. The issue of tonight, the topic of tonight is called Hacking the New World of Work. So I'll tell you exactly in a minute what we're going to do here, but I thought, why not begin with something that is related to the place where I'm from? So I'll just use 2 minutes to warm us up. So I'll change the photo just for a minute here, and I would ask you to guess, what is the name of this person? There are a lot of hints in that photo. Let me help you. Let's break it down. This person is thinking about what? Shout out loud. Speak your mind. What are they thinking about? What is that piece of land that is in his mind? It's a green, lush land, right? How will I call that land? I can't hear you, so if you're shouting something, shout louder. Okay, let me help you out. So he's thinking about a land that looks like a really good land to be in. But what's the environment he is in right now? The black and white. That's the desert, that's right. And he's holding a map. So forget the jacket he's wearing and the map and the compass, which probably he didn't have. But this historical figure is an historical entrepreneur. Historical, mythical, religious. This person, probably you all heard about him. What's the name of this entrepreneur that had to cross the desert on the way to the promised land? Moses, that's right. So you all heard of Moses and the story of the Exodus. Maybe you never thought about looking at this story from an entrepreneurial perspective. And I actually believe the Bible is one of the most entrepreneurial books ever, if you only read it with the right glasses, and has a lot of life lessons, especially for our generation. So let's look at Moses as an entrepreneur, just to get the conversation going. So first, Moses did not grow up wanting to free his people. He actually grew up with Pharaoh. They were best buddies in the palace, just reminding you. But everybody knew he's not Egyptian. He was the kid they found on the River Nile, whatever. So in this field called entrepreneurship, knowing who you are is a key issue. And it sounds like a high, fluffy idea from the world of coaching, but you have no idea how much implication it has on everyday lives, and it will have on your lives as you finish college and go out to the world of work. So I'll get to that. Okay, here's another one. People tend to forget Moses actually spent time doing market research. So he didn't just go out to the desert, he actually spent time living there before the Exodus. He went out and lived with Jethro and the Midianites. He married his wife. It really helped him later on when he did the big thing of his life, because he knew the place he's going for. So knowing your market, knowing the industry you want to grow in is really important, which is why, for example, internships you will take throughout the next years in the industries you care about are super meaningful. Okay, here's another one. This is really related to a lot of the things I see today. So giving Pharaoh the finger is very easy. It goes like this. I hate you, boss. I hate this company. I came to work here because I thought it's an opportunity, but I'm not making any impact, and there's no, way for me to progress and make progress here, no promotion coming up, and I don't like the customers or the product. I quit. Or you're missing the market, you're not listening to the advice that we tell you, we're going to quit and do it our way. Great, so you give Pharaoh the finger. That's easy. Even stepping into the desert is easy. When you start as an entrepreneur, you have high hopes, high ambitions, and the first cycle, the first days or weeks or even months or years are easy. And then you get to the market, and sometimes you're lucky. Like you get to the Red Sea and it splits for you. Here's the way it works in the real world. I launched my online business, or we, the startup, we launched our product, and it went viral. But that's not a strategy for life, because you have 40 years of desert coming up. The desert, I don't need to tell you, anybody who spent a few days in any desert, is not a fun place to try to survive in. So it's unforgiving and tough, just like any market. And it doesn't matter if you're an artist or a graphic designer or you're going to the business sector, any market. So there's that. And even if you already built a company, or even if you started your journey and you're surrounded by people, sometimes they disappoint you, sometimes they don't. But when you go first and you're the decision maker, because you lead the way, that's a very lonely journey. That's something any entrepreneur will tell you. And here's another one. A lot of people I know, they build the business they wanted, whether that's in tech or not tech, and they get to their promised land, but they get confused and they're disappointed because they were looking for the Garden of Eden, which does not exist. It's just a fantasy. You can't go back because you ate from the apple. So you get to your promised land, and then you move on, and you miss that promised land. So you need to understand that that promised land is a real place. Your career ambitions or whatever that is, it's a place that is real with ups and downs, and getting there will take longer than you think. By the way, he never got in. So why do it? Whether it's startups and entrepreneurship or what you will probably endure with your career path, which we'll talk about later on. Because I'm going to claim that entrepreneurship is something you are all going to have to embed to yourselves, whether you build a business or not. So why go through this journey? Sounds like not a lot of fun. So here's why. I believe that when you find something that is worth winning for, when you find a profession or a project or a career path, or a product you want to design, or whatever that is, something that is worth winning for. And you can make more money in other places, in other corporations, in Wall Street or somewhere else, but you want to do this. That's what you want to win with. When you find that thing, you also find something that is worth losing for. So even if it will not work, you will be proud that you took that path and you tried. And when you find something that is worth winning for, and you find something that is worth losing for, you also find something that is worth living for. And if that sounds like something from the world of mentoring and coaching, I'm going to argue in this talk that this is something that is imperative and fundamental for the world of work we are all going to go out for. I'm already in it. You'll be in it sooner than you think. So if you want to do something epic with your lives, you have to think that way. So here's the plan for the talk. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, so you'll get a little bit of context from me. Then I'm going to set the background, talk a little bit about how the world of work works outside from my perspective and from the things that I've seen. So I'm setting the background, and then I'll get to the punchline. I have a very specific punchline that I want to make, which is the cornerstone of this talk. And after I make that punchline, I'm going to give a few implications for that idea that I'll present as the punchline, and then I'll give the main takeaway that I think you should take from this talk. So if you agree with my background and with the punchline, and the implications got you thinking, then the main takeaways are super important for you. And if you didn't, they're important for you either way. So that is the plan. Is this okay? Great. I'm so excited that you like it, because there's no alternative. That's what we're doing. Okay. So my name is Assaf Luxembourg. I am 34 years old, born and raised, and I'm from Israel. And to cut things short, to make things short, if you want to know me, I have a very specific passion in my professional life, which I discovered when I was more or less your age. I realized that I'm all into showing people around the world the real face of my country. I felt this is like a mission, something I had to do, and deal with connecting people from my people back to to Israel. So that's something that I felt very strongly that I have to do something about it. You can call that patriotism, community work, whatever. Up until then, I was a different person. So up until I was 22, actually, I was all about music. Anybody here is a musician? Are you playing instruments? Okay. Anybody here is a singer? All right. Anybody here deals with producing music? Okay. So this was my room in high school, which was 400,000 years ago. Just so you would understand, I don't know if you see that thing over there. That's a computer. That's how computers looked like in the early 2000s when I was in high school. This was my room. So for those who raised your hands, I was all Logic, Cubase, models, synthesizers. I grew up in Israel. Electronic music was very big on our side and in Europe before it got here, because you all know techno today. Nobody knew techno in the early 2000s from my American friends. Never mind. So back in those days, another just small, funny piece of information, early 2000s, for some reason, people in Israel have this idea that hip-hop in Hebrew will be cool. And a lot of these wannabe hip-hop artists were in my high school. And I was able to produce. So I became their DJ producer. So I was cool once, but not anymore. So that was me in high school. But at the age of 22, I participated in a certain leadership summit that got me to think about my career goals and really made the chips fall for me. And that organization is also responsible for allowing me to be here tonight. So I'll thank them at the end. But I participated in this leadership summit in 2008. And then I realized I don't want to be that DJ producer guy. Not when I'm 35, not when I'm 45, not when I'm 75. It's cool today, but it's not who I am. And I realized this was always in my background, but I should do something about it. So I'm 22 years old. In Israel, that's the age you actually go to study, because you did military service or some sort of service for 3 years. So 22, I am you at 18. I need to go and study. And I'm looking to study something that will help me get a profession where I get to do this. So I want to represent my country, and I want to get paid for what I do. Anybody has an idea for which kind of people get paid to represent their countries overseas? Athletes, that's right, but that's also like you would move to another club. It depends on the athlete industry, and I'm not an athlete, so not good for me. Anything else? Government. I used to think politicians, but I'm not a politician. Also, I came to learn, and I know tomorrow is a big day, politicians represent themselves first. So not for me, not my game. Who else is really getting paid to represent their countries overseas? They're sent by their countries. Ambassadors, that's right, diplomats. Assaf, you're not that musician guy. Come on, that's not who you are. You're going to be an ambassador. So you should study the relevant things in the relevant place. So in Israel, Jerusalem is a city maybe you all heard of for all sorts of purposes. It's also where government sits. So Government sits over there, so if you want to study and become an ambassador, you need to be around that area. So I studied in Jerusalem. All right. I studied political science, because I thought, anybody here studies political science? Okay, so I studied political science. I wanted to be an ambassador. That's what you go and study. Anybody here studies economics? All right. I went to study economics because I wanted to understand how business works, how markets works. It's important if you want to be a good ambassador. So that's what I went to study. And I went to work for organizations that mattered to me if I wanted to be an ambassador where I'm from. So leading nonprofits that are important. I worked for the government. Then I went private sector. I went to work for entrepreneurs and startups, helping them. And then I went to work for large corporations. I wanted to understand how business works. So I go do business development and marketing and sales and strategy for a big consulting firm. So I did that. Here's where the story really takes its turn. So during my 20s, which I invested in the jobs that are relevant for me for the long term, because I wanted to be an ambassador. The book Startup Nation that Joe mentioned came out in 2008. And I started getting all these requests from all sorts of business delegations that started coming to Israel more and more. They came before, but now because of the book, they started pouring in. MBA schools, business people, investors, entrepreneurs, all sorts of people. And they started asking me, Assaf, would you mind, as an economist working for the government, coming and talk to the group about doing business in Israel? What's the secrets here? How do you find the right opportunities? How did Startup Nation happen? Blah, 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 and the whole thing. And I wanted to be an ambassador. Is speaking to foreign visitors who come to your country relevant if you want to be an ambassador? Of course. Which is why, at the beginning, I agreed to do it as much as I could and for free. Because this is going to make me the best candidate to be an ambassador when I apply. And as you can see from this long pitch, I am not an ambassador. So my plan succeeded, failed. When I was 29, I had the big meltdown of my career path, and I realized I'm not going to do it. Like, it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to wait for the next train. Not when I'm married +1. So I learned the hard way that in life, and I spent my whole 20s preparing to become an ambassador. So I learned the hard way that in life there are many cases where you plan, the big boss laughs, and then you cry. And you're laughing, but it'll happen to all of you at certain volumes. That internship, that course, that guy, that girl, that job, that promotion, that deal, just life. So I built and built and built, and then I hit the block. So I cried a lot. Why did the big boss laugh? Well, maybe because this whole thing that was supposed to be a mean towards an end, kind of against my will, became the end itself. That's how I started my business. I never wanted to start my own consulting firm. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. For me, freelancing was a dirty word. Like, I came from government and corporate. Like, what freelancing? What are people talking about? But when I understood I'm not going to go and be an ambassador, and customers kept coming in and said, Assaf, continue to do what we do, then I had to listen to the market. And that's how I got to do what I do today. So I have a company that does 3 things. One of them is really relevant for this talk. The first one, I am sort of a Startup Nation ambassador, but not on behalf of my government, on behalf of, and I actually make a living out of it. Nobody pays me to go to talk. Like, the people who want to hear me pay me to talk. So it's more of an alignment of interests. Also, I can say what I want, not what I'm sent to say, which is cool. The second part, I was a CEO for a startup for 2 years. I'm a part of startups today. I grew up in the startup industry in Israel, so I'm consulting and advising startups, mainly with regards to marketing, business development, sales, strategy, storytelling, pitching, those fields. The third part is the more interesting part. And because of the nature of my work, I get to work with a lot of young professionals, and I started dealing a lot with the new world of work. in which entrepreneurship is not just a career choice for some or an experimental phase for some, I started seeing how this becomes part of the DNA of everyone's career. Because technology changes the world of work, not just in tech land, but for all of us. And that got me drawn in, and I do a lot of advising and consulting with that matter today. And that's related to our talk tonight. So these are just some logos you can get impressed by. Passages are somewhere here. FSU was somewhere there. So I led a startup for 2 years. I work with startups throughout accelerators and all sorts of startup programs like Techstars. I'm a part of Israeli startups like Silo, which we're not going to talk about today. That's my other business we're not going to talk about. And yeah, this happens all over the world. It happened in Israel, so I was one of the winners last year. Okay, whatever. In short, I'm an independent consultant and speaker. I led a startup for 2 years as an external CEO. I'm doing biz dev and marketing for Israeli startups. I have a laser-focused passion in my professional life. And here's the really important part. I learned the hard way how to separate between my why and the what and the how. I thought being an ambassador was my why. I want to be an ambassador, and that's the cornerstone. And I realized it's only a mean to an end. It's doing the work that really mattered to me. That's the why. And when I understood that, showing people the real face of my country is what I'm interested in, being an ambassador is maybe one way of doing it, but it's not the only way. And that allowed me to let the what and the how change. Once I understood my career dream was a how and not a why, I was able to focus on my why and allow the what and the how to change. And when you focus on your why and you let the what and how change, that's where innovation comes from. You're not romantic to a certain what or a certain how. So I'll get back to that in the end. But that's a little bit about my journey. And what I want to do is set the background for this talk. So just to tell you about the world of work out there, it's something that I know a lot of you are thinking. I don't know how many people here are seniors or how many people here are freshmen, but it's something that everybody is thinking about the day after school. So I don't need to tell you we live in times of change. So I want you to look at this photo. And this photo talks about two revolutions. Whoops, I'm going to take this off. Two revolutions that probably you all heard about and studied about. Yeah, that's good. All right. So two revolutions you all know. One you learned about in high school, that's on the left, or also here. The other one you're living through right now, right? The Industrial Revolution and the Information Revolution, right? You all heard that already. Here's something that is very important to understand about these two revolutions. Our great-grandparents 200 years ago didn't say, boy, we lived through the Industrial Revolution. Just like you don't say every day, yes, the information revolution really changes our lives. They had to adapt fast to a changing world where you move from the village to the city. You have to go and work, which is not agriculture in your backyard. You go to a factory, so you need to put the kids in school. So school was invented, big cities. I don't need to tell you all about this. You could get on a steamboat, go to the new world, go west, look for gold, new opportunities. You can change your life dramatically because of technology. Sounds familiar? That's what they lived through. And we live through the same thing. We don't talk about it every day, but it changes our lives really, really fast. So technology advances fast. Culture adapts. If you go back then, when cars were introduced into cities, early 20th century, I'm pretty sure driving rules were not invented in a day. It took time. I mean, the hay industry went down. Suddenly there are no horses in the city, changed the horse business. There was a lot of adaptation to do, and you had to write new rules over how to drive in town, because these things ride fast, they're noisy, you need to honk because you can't talk to the driver next to you. So you get the point. So technology advances fast, culture adapts. So I'm going to use an example from one of the people that I think all of you should be following. So I don't know how many of you know Gary Vaynerchuk, so he uses this example just so you understand how technology advances fast. All of you, you see this as your best friend. This is your gateway to the world. But you didn't have this 10 years ago. Only 10 years ago, this was an impossible dream. We had Nokia phones with Snake. 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, driving manually, like holding the wheel and pressing it with your leg or whatever, will be illegal because the cars will drive themselves. And it sounds ridiculous to you right now in 2018, but when it will come, it will become the new obvious really, really fast, just like these things did. So that's how technology advances fast. And culturally, we adapt, which is why in the last decade, these are the new heroes. So entrepreneurs and startup entrepreneurs, they were around since the 90s when the information revolution really started. But they really became heroes in the past decade. The Facebook stories and Steve Jobs and all of that. That's why, you know, speaking with the jeans and t-shirt right now, that's why it's cool. So, you know, quitting your work and starting a company, it's cool today. But it's culture. It will not be cool forever. So don't be romantic about that fad. People will look back on startup culture and will say, what the hell were they thinking back then at the early 21st century? Just like we look at, you know, hippies from the 60s. That's how people will look at it. So that's not the long-term impact. But technology, with just changes, puts a lot of disruption on the world of work beyond startups, beyond entrepreneurship in technology. So the world of work is really changing. Well, it used to be about jobs. Today, it's about careers. Not the same thing. I'll give you an example. But before that, the way the world of work changes, everything you thought is a constant in the equation becomes a variable. And everything you thought is a variable, you say, nah, that's changed, that's not important. That becomes a new constant. And today it's all about the value of your brand, whatever it is you want to do. And I don't mean your website or your social media or your LinkedIn page. I mean your reputation. What people say about you behind your back, online and offline, matters so much more today than in the past. Here's an example to understand this. Anybody here is studying law? Yes? Anyone? I'm going to use a lawyer's example. Okay. So, when someone goes to study law, they go to law school, right? I mean, that's where you study law. You can't be a lawyer without law school. And then you go to work in a law firm. So you go and study a profession, and then you go and work and gain expertise in that profession. So far, so good, right? You with me? Okay. And then you become a master in your job, which is legal services. That's once upon a time. So, of course, the employer-employee relationship was a sacred marriage. You would stay and work for the same company for years. People also used to ask people, where do you work? Like, hi, what's your name, blah, 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 so where do you work? Here's how it works today. You still go to law school. Your friends who are in law school here. But what they really do is they acquire skills, not necessarily a profession. Then what they do is they go to work for a law firm. They do the internship, then they become an associate, and then a manager, and I don't know if you know, saw suits, so they, whatever. So, but what really happens is they're not gaining expertise in their profession. They really build a community or join one and build a network around them. Here's how it works. You go and work for the law firm and you join the real estate department. So you provide legal services to real estate customers. Great. 2 years later, you get an offer to go and work with one of those real estate developers. And you become their legal guy or girl. And you work for them for 2 years. Then, since you work with a lot of real estate investors, you get an offer to go and work in their investment fund. So you moved from a law firm to a real estate company that builds houses or whatever, and now you work for a real estate investor that invests in projects. Your career is not law, your career is real estate. So instead of going this way, you're going that way. What was variable became constant, the constant became variable. So of course the employer-employee is a short-term deal. All of you are going to switch jobs every 2 or 3 years, not because there's something wrong with you, not because there's something wrong with your employer, because these are the new rules of the game. That's why, if you notice, people don't ask people, where do you work? They ask, what do you do? It's what you do that matters. To who? That changes. So that's just to wrap your minds about how it changes culturally. Now add in technology. So here are a few stats from a Deloitte survey that says 48% of today's jobs will be gone in 10 years. Think about that. 65% of middle school students will hold jobs yet to be invented. Okay, so 41% of US workforce participates already today in the gig economy or the on-demand economy, AKA they are freelancing alongside their day job or just 100% instead of their day job. And it's only going to grow. So people already talk about 50. And there are a lot of other stats. So it's changing rapidly. So please let's understand, your career is not the random set of jobs you're going to hold. Just like a sentence is not a random set of words. You need context. And that's something that you have to build. No employer will build that context for you because the employer will change every 2 to 3 years. The new constants are all the fluffy stuff that you thought are less relevant. So this is, a luxury for those who are stable. They can think about these things for their career. No, today it begins with these things, with your education, your vision, your skills, your interests, your values, your goals. These things are what you're coming to the market with. So that's the new world of work. And I believe that there's a punchline hidden here. There's a certain understanding that we all need to adopt. And it goes like this. I believe that in today's world, you and you and you and you and everybody else who's watching and me and you, Joe, we are all business units. What does it mean? What are business units? Business units are units that produce value. They get an input, they produce an output. And they are P&L units, profit and loss. They produce a certain profit, they have a certain loss, and the profit should be bigger than the loss. And I would suggest that in today's world, you should all think of yourselves as business units. It means that you are injected with inputs and you need to provide outputs. Your outputs should better be bigger than the inputs, because someone paying for those inputs, your employer is paying you a salary. If you're passing time to do the minimum work in order to keep the current job, that's not going to be stable. Maybe in the past world of work. Today, it just shows that you're a bad business unit. It's on you to make sure that the outputs are bigger than the inputs. If you're tricking your employer and, listen, I do nothing here, like they pay me to do X, Y, and Z, and literally I work like 2 days a week, if I piled it up. It just shows that you will not be there for long, not in today's economy. I would say that if you are a business unit, your boss is your customer, because you're providing services to them, and everyone else is your consumer. Your boss is paying for the inputs so that you will provide the outputs that he or she enjoys, but everyone else enjoys too around the office. So you should think of yourselves as business unit and understand that the boss is the customer. And customers don't need to only receive upfront what you need to give them, they need to be satisfied. Checking the boxes is not enough anymore. If you're going to say, okay, what's my responsibilities, what's my objectives, check, 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 and you'll do it better, cheaper, or better and faster and more efficient, you're not going to get promoted because you're not adding any new value. So it changes the whole perspective. So in the on-demand economy, what you need to ask, whether you'll start your own businesses or go work for companies, you need to ask, what can I do that others around me need? It could be your job description. It could be beyond your job description. You need to come and tell, what are you passionate about? Why do you want to work where you work? Or why do you want to sell what you want to sell? Or do what you want to do? If you don't know how to tell that to the market will not know to understand who you are. So all of these things that are usually very important for businesses, like how to tell our story to the customers and how to persuade them to buy from us and how to grow our relationships with them, that is important for us as individuals. So to wrap this punchline, I would argue that your employer is your customer. Once you understand that, you can start seeing paths for growth. And your employer will not tell you who you are. You're looking for the job that will make you fulfilled and be happy and stable. It doesn't exist. You'll switch jobs every 2 years, and you won't find that promised land, because it's in here. So that's the punchline. And what I want to do now is give a few implications about this to make this more pragmatic. Are we good so far? So I set the background about the new world of work. The punchline is what I saw that works for a lot of people that I'm working with in all sorts of angles, and that's why I believe in this punchline. And now I want to give a few implications, and I'll be happy to make them as much as pragmatic to most of you. So the implications that I'm going to bring, I actually post a lot of them online, so you could go and check them out later and find more of them. What I want to do is use 3 or 4. So these are all in my blog, which is this online. You can find that, just search it on Google. Here's the first one that I want to share with you. Most of you are going to start looking for jobs, maybe next summer, maybe next year. So what are you going to do? You're going to send your CVs to a lot of people who said they are hiring, and you're going to hope for the best. And you'll play a numbers game. You say, okay, let's send as many CVs as we can, apply for as many jobs we can, eventually we'll hit something. Okay, but doing only that strategy is not effective. Remember the lawyer from my former example? Imagine that a lawyer wants to obtain more customers. Imagine that that lawyer will send a ton of email to a lot of random people saying, hey, if you're looking for a lawyer, here's my portfolio. Here are all the things I've done in the past and my experience. If you're looking for a lawyer, I'll be happy to work with you. Does that sound to you like a good sales technique? No. Because, I don't need a lawyer right now. Delete. So how do lawyers sell? How do businesses sell? Well, they grow relationships with their customers. They say at the beginning of the year, okay, here's our plan, our strategic plan. Who do we want to get as customers, and how do we persuade them to buy from us? We could do a lot of things, but we need to come to them and add value to them first. That's how sales really work. And I would suggest you need to do the same thing for your careers. Here's how. You're looking for a job. That's okay to spray the hill, send CVs, and apply for a lot of jobs. What you should also do is snipe. What does it mean to snipe? You need to make a list of the top 10 companies you want to work for. And if you don't know who they are, that's a good time to start thinking about it. You should figure out who do you really want to work for. You should ask yourselves, in a world where all the salaries are the same, the reputation is the same, the risk management, like what's going to happen with that company, is the same. That's okay. I don't know, unless it's going to explode or something. All right. But at least we feel more friendly now. Okay, I'm glad that you're laughing. So, you have to come up with the top 10 employers you want to work for. You need to know who they are. Once you have those names, that's column A. Column B, you have to know for yourself, why do you want to work there? If you want to go and work for Google, but you have zero idea what you want to do there, and to be honest, you want to be there just because it will make you proud, and it probably is a good pay, that's not a good enough reason. Do you really like online ads? So you need to answer that question on column B for each and every one of those companies you listed. And on column C, here's what you want to do. You want to write to yourself, why should they be interested in someone like you? What is the reason? It could be a lot of sorts of reasons. It doesn't have to be business related, but it has to be something that they will care about. And once you know who do you want to work for, and why do you want to work for them, and what do you want to do for them, and why should they be interested in someone like you, what you need to do is do what businesses do. You need to go out and communicate with them. So I'll tell you how that works. You go to LinkedIn, you go to company page, right, the page of the company you want to work for, you hit employees, you look at the employees, and then you'll see HR, and you will think to yourself, I should talk to him or her. No, unless you want to work in HR for that company. You need to look for your potential future boss, AKA your customer. Find that person, the head of this department, the head of the marketing department, if you want to do marketing over there, or the head of, I don't know, the financial department, if you want to work in financials over there, and go and talk to them. And what you want to do is find a good reason to make them care about you. If you're an engineer and you want to work for a company, the best way to get a job is go and talk to the head of technology in that company, the CTO, and tell them, listen, hi, my name is Joe. I found a bug in your system. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. That's how you get in. So you need to build meaningful relationships with your future employers, your customers. And once you get them interested, now they know that you're unique and valuable. Eventually, they'll come with a job offer to you. Or you tell them that you're looking, but now they already know you. So spraying the hill is good. That's a numbers game. But you should snipe as well. Sniping takes more time. You need to measure the wind. You need to be patient. You need to know how to aim right. But it's really effective. So you need a little bit of both, but do the sniping too. Not a lot of people think about that. But when you're doing business, that's the way to sell. So that's the way to look for a job. Not look for a job, biz dev, as if you're selling services from your company. You should all think of yourselves as you.com, you LLC, you incorporated. You don't need to register a company. You don't need a .com website. But that's how you need to think about yourselves. And you are the owner and the CEO of you. Even if you are employed. Does that make sense? Okay. That's what I see that works for more and more people in more and more case studies in more and more places around the world in today's economy and in more and more fields. So that's number one. Here's another one. I don't need to tell you that internships are imperative when you're studying in college, university, bachelor's, master's, whatever. And a lot of the internships out there are unpaid internships. And I work with a lot of unpaid internship programs. I help a lot of companies learn how to take unpaid employees in a more meaningful way. That's something I do a lot, back where I'm from. And I came to understand, and I work with a lot of people who do internships, helping them get more from their internships, teaching them how to think like business unit. So any of you who are going to take an unpaid internship this summer, this winter, next summer, whatever, after school maybe, here's the secret advantage of unpaid internships. If we are business units and the employer is the customer, usually the transaction is, we, the customer, the employer, we want you to do X, Y, and Z for us, and we're willing to pay you A, B, and C in return. It's a transaction, right? So when you go and work there, you need to do X, Y, and Z. That's what you get paid to do. As a server provider, as an employer, as an employee, whatever. With unpaid internships, it's really funny because it's actually a reverse transaction. So an internship, just like a job, is a transaction. A paid internship is more similar to a job than an unpaid internship. But when you take a non-paid internship, you have the leverage. Because in a way, what are you really doing as a business unit? You come to a customer an employer, and you're telling him or her, we are willing to do work for you for free. So we're not expecting any returns, any financial returns. So if business units receive inputs and provide outputs, here you're not asking for inputs and will give outputs in return. You are offering the outputs first. So the funny thing happens, which is you get to decide what the inputs will be. You could come to a company and decide what you want to do for them, not exactly what they want you to do, what you want to do for them. You could literally go to companies and tell them, I am willing to come and work for you for free. I get a scholarship or whatever, or I have this arrangement, or I enlisted 2 passages, or another program that does it, or whatever. None of your concern. But I'm going to be in town for 2 months, and I'm willing to come and work for you for free. Here's my CV. I would really happy to be the personal advisor of the CEO. Are they going to take a personal advisor for free or not? When you make it like that, that's a pretty good offering. A lot of CEOs would like personal advisors for free. Yes, it's only for 2 months, so you can't build a really long-term internship relationship. But with 2 months, I could use Joe or Michelle to solve this problem for me, or run this short-term project for me, or do this market research for me, or help reorganize this thing for me that I don't have time to do. That's a good offering, so I'm going to buy. So you have the leverage when you're doing a non-paid internship. And if you decide for yourself and determine, what are my long-term goals, my career ambitions? What are my mid-term goals? What do I want to get out of this experience? And what are my short-term goals? What do I want to happen within those 2 months? Which will get me the mid-term goals and put me on the path to the long-term goals. When you know to do that for yourself, because you've done the process as a business unit, just like companies do, then you know to communicate that to your employers, customers. And when you do that, you align them to help you get it, because you communicate and you align expectations. So this is a really cool thing that I saw that works with a lot of unpaid internships. And I'm sure many of you go and ask, what are the unpaid internships available? Well, I will tell you to flip it around. Who do you want to work for and go sell them? And what do you want to do for them and sell them an unpaid internship? And then work things out in reverse. So when you do that, and alongside that internship, you can control and manage the transaction terms, because it's a transaction, just like in business. You provide free outputs, meaning free, they don't have to pay for them, but you can demand that you want X, Y, and Z on the recommendation letter, because it's important for you to get to grad school. Or you want A, B, and C as an experience to do for that company, because you want to go and work in these fields in the future. You decide, not them. And if they're not interested, move to the next one. Because you're selling your work basically for free, but it's not really for free. You're getting whatever it is you want from them. Does that make sense? This is a really, I've seen this in work, and it really changes everything. And I've seen people create their own internships that way, manage their own internships that way. Funny thing happens, they get a job at the end of that internship, maybe even before they graduated from school. So that's for looking for a job or an internship, or how to look at jobs or internships. Here's one for the everyday life at the office. I don't know how many people here already did some internships or worked throughout the summer or got to experience any office environment. And it doesn't matter which office. Here's probably what you experienced. And this applies for maybe 99% of offices around the world. That's the office. In the blue circle, you see yourself in your comfort zone, because everybody has a comfort zone in the office. What they do, what people know that they do, and there are things that they don't do, and everybody knows they're not doing them. So they build this fort, this wall, this border around their comfort zone, and they know this is what Michelle and Joe do here. So the company knows what to expect from them to do or not to do. Comfort zones. You all have comfort zones. So this is you in your comfort zone, and you can see your colleagues in their comfort zones, and you see your boss in his or her comfort zone. Now, there's a very important rule in the physics of office politics. Comfort zones repel each other, and they never overlap. There can't be a thing which in both people's comfort zones. So they always repel each other. They never touch. Just like, in magnets and physics, whatever. Just like with electricity. So there's a void in between. And in that void, there are a lot of tasks and responsibilities that no one does around the office. By the way, the big boss, his or her comfort zone is the entire screen. So there's a lot of gray. And that's exactly where the gold is. The gold is always in the gray. Diamonds are always hidden in coal. So you want to make progress and get promoted and grow within your companies, you can stay in your comfort zone and execute that comfort zone better and faster and more efficient. But it's still the same comfort zone. There was no change on this map. Here's what you really do. You go out to the gray, and you find a lot of tasks and responsibilities that are literally abandoned. It's a no man's land. And any office has that. Now, some of those tasks and responsibilities are irrelevant to you. They're not relevant to what you want to do as a profession. They're not relevant to your growth. Just noise, just gray, coal. Disregard them. But once you find the tasks and responsibilities that are the gold, then you can go and claim them because nobody else owns them. You can't go to someone else's comfort zone, but you can go to the gray. And no one will stop you. So you volunteer to take another piece of work that nobody else is due, but you understand that strategically, that's how you can create your promotion. Because you take that thing, you take ownership of it, or you think of something that is not being done here and you can volunteer to do. And surprise, a month or 2 months or a quarter or 6 months or a year later, it becomes part of your comfort zone. Because now everybody in the company knows that you're the one who is doing that. It's your responsibility. What happened is you have increased the outputs first. And then you come to your boss and you say, listen, I volunteered to take these 4 things on myself, and I really helped do this, but I also have my own work. And to be honest, I can't keep up with everything. So, we need to realign expectations. And suddenly you get to hire 2 people beneath you. And then you say, listen, I'm already managing a team, so it's me and the 2 employees, and suddenly you get promoted, and you get more salary, and you get more, and that's how you grow. Because there is no such thing as office politics. It's not politics. This is just a market, and you are a business unit in that market. And it's not politics, it's market dynamics. And what happens in the market? If you add value, and if people appreciate that value, you will grow. If I try to sell something that nobody wants, no one will buy. So it's not about what I want to sell, it's about what others want to buy. And that's how you get promoted. And it's something that happened to me in my career path, and it started happening to so many others. So if you want to get promoted, look for the gold and the gray. It's another way of how thinking like a business unit acts in the everyday office life. Does that make sense? Great. Here's another one. How many people here are interested in starting their own business? Whether it's a startup or your own online shop, or you're an artist and you want to sell your work, anything where you own your own business. Okay, a few of you. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Many of them build businesses. Here's something that I saw. You could build a company that has its own vision and mission and DNA. But you also have your own vision and mission and DNA. And a lot of people build businesses which will fulfill their ambitions, which is wrong in today's world of work. You are a business unit. You have your own vision, mission, strategy. What do you want to do in your career? That's you. and you build a company, the company is not you. And a lot of people grow companies, and then the companies already sell, and you have customers, and then at some point you say, but that's not what I want to do. That doesn't fulfill me. So I'm going to change the business to fit to who I am, which is wrong. It's just two businesses where you are a business and you own the other business you've built. So you're going to fundraise money and start your own startup or whatever. You are a business unit and the startup is a business unit. So as founders, we start businesses, we need a vision and mission. We also have our own visions and missions for our careers. They can change over time, but they're not the same vision and mission of the companies. They could overlap, they could even be identical, but they're not the same thing. They could be on top of each other, but they're not on the same level. So many of you will figure out that you're building businesses, but later on you will want to build other businesses. That's okay. The business is not here to fulfill your ambitions. You are your own business, and if you build a company and at some point there's no overlap, that's okay. There are ways to solve that, but the business is not there to solve your personal ambitions. Does that make sense? That's for any of you that are interested in any entrepreneurial journey. So thinking like a business unit is not only for employees, something that is maybe new to many of them, also for entrepreneurs and freelancers who have to think like business unit because they have to sell for a living. Also for them, they need to understand that they are a personal business unit and their companies are separate business units. So that was a tricky one, but it's the one that is intended for future founders. So again, I write a lot about implications about how thinking like a business unit manifests in today's world of work. I have a blog on an Israeli outlet in English that is called The Times of Israel, so you can all look it up, easy to find. And I talk a lot about internships and about how to really make the most out of internship experiences, whether they're paid or unpaid. So you're more than welcome to check it out. Okay, here's the last part. So I want to wrap things up and give you two main tools that I believe are maybe the most efficient tools. Really, they changed my life. So I want to share them with you because I heard them when I was your age. So when businesses have to look at the market and say, oh God, where do we go from here? What do? They need a strategy. So they call a company called McKinsey or BCG, and they pay them $1 million for a nice presentation and research to come up with the right strategy for what they should do. That's what happens in corporate America or global corporate. Problem is, you don't have $1 million to pay McKinsey to solve this for you. You're an individual. But you do need a strategic plan. So you need to ask what McKinsey asked, and you need to answer what McKinsey answers to corporates who pay them $1 million per project. How should we position ourselves in our market for maximum success? So we choose what markets we want to be here in. Now, what do we need to do to succeed, to survive and thrive in those markets? So I told you need to think like a business unit. So I want to give you a practice that really, really helps. How many people here know who this guy is? All right. You're the only one? Come on. How many people here have heard about, what's his name? Simon Sinek, that's right. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. He has one of the TED Talks with the most views online, very famous one. Some of you actually saw him, maybe not because of Start With Why, but because of the other really famous video that exploded on Facebook about 2 years ago, where he talks about millennials in the world of work. Many of you saw that, and now you're thinking, oh yeah, it's that guy. For those of you who don't know, Simon Sinek is a thought leader that deals a lot with what he calls the golden circle. And he says the following thing. Every company knows what they do and how they do it. Very few companies know why they do it. Their why is to make money. Not a good why, because the market doesn't care about you making money. It's selfishly about you, not about the market. So he studied and he showed how the really successful companies, for the long term, they really focus on their why. Companies like Apple or others, they know how to focus on their why, what they do. So he says, there's what you do to achieve what you want, and there's how do you do to achieve it, but there's why do you want to achieve that? Why is this what you want to achieve? And you need to focus on why and start with why. So that works for a lot of corporations. It helps them fix the company culture, make the employees more aligned with the vision and mission, help the salesmen sell better, help the product people work better on the product, the whole thing. Align the customers, everything. But we need to do it for ourselves. So you need to find your why. Now, if you go back to my intro, I told you my story in a certain way for a purpose. Because I thought I knew my why. But my why was not, why do I want to achieve this? Being an ambassador was not my why. It was, how do I want to exercise my passion? So when I realized that my passion is not to be an ambassador, my passion is to promote my country in a way that is meaningful. I don't want to just talk about Israel. I want to add value to the audience to get the audience interested about where I'm from. Because it's about the audience, not about me and my country. When I realized that, I understood being an ambassador is just a how. So I urge all of you to go online and watch that TED Talk or buy the book, Start With Why, or however you want to consume this, to understand how to find your why and how to focus on your why. And when you communicate your why to the world, things move faster. Because that's what businesses do, and we are all business units. So when you find a why to commit to, as I said in the beginning, that why doesn't change. What you want to say that you did in your career when you're 70, is not going to change next year so fast. If it does, it's not the real thing. And when you answer that to yourself, you can communicate that to the world. And you allow for the what and the how to change. Because you're not about what you do and how you do it, you're about why are you doing it. So for a company like Apple, for example, they know why they do what they do. They are about designing products that have a say. It's about the elegance of the design. And boy, I'm not an Apple user. I don't have one Apple product. But Apple is about design products. And guess what? They used to sell computers. Today they sell phones. They changed the what and the how, but not their why. And there are a lot of examples for that. So you need to be like that for yourselves. What is my real why? So I can play with the what's and the hows, but I will allow them to change as needed. Because the why is the constant in the new world of work. So that's where innovation comes from. That's how you will innovate your next business model, or your next company, or your next product, or your next career move. So there's that. But how do you find out why? When you find out why, you find a certain calling. And then you communicate that to the world. And when people around you, in your industry, not everyone, but the people that matter to you professionally understand that you're a mission-driven individual, you are in this market because you want to bring change. You're here to contribute to the community. You're here for the market as a whole. You want to enlarge the pie, not eat more pizzas from the pie. Then they will have more tendency to do business with you, to hire you. Because you show them that you're aligned with what they do, with their why. That's what companies do. That's what you should do as individuals. That's another thing you can find on my blog, but never mind. But how can you figure that out? So finding your why seems like, a great thing. Yeah, go think about it. But it's not that easy. For some people, it takes a year. For some people, the chips fell, in 1 minute. Like for me, I had a eureka moment when I was your age in that summit. But for some people, it'll take like 3 years or 4 years to discover who they want to be. And that's fine. So how can you control and shorten that process and make it more efficient? So here's the other thing that I heard in that conference by the ROI community. That was all about social leadership, but from a leadership perspective, they brought someone that I really admire to share what helped him in his journey. And I want to share that with you. So I don't know if anybody here is studying business? Okay. Do you know who this fellow is? Maybe not, because you don't see the faces of the names you see on the papers that you read. So his name is Jim Collins. Anybody here heard of Jim Collins? Jim Collins is a very known professor in the field of business, Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. A very known person. He wrote a lot of books. One of them is called Good to Great. It's a very known book. So I'm not going to talk about the book, but I want to share a concept from the book called the hedgehog concept. But I'm not going to talk about animals here. I'm going to give you the punchline up front. Here's what I heard when I was 22 that made the chips fall for me. Jim Collins talks about 3 circles where each circle has its own center, which is out of the other 2. You all know this because it's like a nightmare you had from Venn diagrams from statistics A or something like that. I'm not going to teach statistics or group theory, but 3 circles, each has a center, which is out of the other 2, and there's a shared zone in the middle, you all see that over here, which has no centers in it. But it's the only zone that has all circles combined. So far, you're with me? Great. That's probably something you've seen before. What Jim Collins did is he gave names to the circles. The first one would be your passion, the second one would be your competitive advantage, and the third one would be your economic drive. And every circle has a center, so there's the center of your passion, and there's the competitive advantage, and the center of your economic drive. All right. So he did this for businesses, and then he thought about it for individuals. Because individuals today are business units, I would claim. So here's what he came up with. And it works like this. Let's start with this circle, the passion circle. A lot of people probably tell you, you should go and pursue your passion. Well, maybe you really like ballet dancing. That's the center of your passion. There's only one problem with you and ballet dancing. You know what's that? You suck at it. You're not talented. Should you go and pursue your passion and, come with the head against the wall, trying to break the wall? Maybe not. Because if you try, you'll end up being in a place where you're not doing something you have a competitive advantage in, you're not good at it. Therefore, no one will pay you to do it. There are a lot of artists who play on the street. They're not in the studios recording, maybe because they're not in those 2 circles. So pursue your passion comes with a grain of salt. You should pursue your passion, but you should do it in a pragmatic way. So that's one extreme. Here's another thing you may have heard of. You need to exploit your potential. Figure out what you're good at and go do that for a living. Fine. Maybe you run really, really fast. Should you go and be a professional athlete just because you're good at it? Anybody here is an athlete? Okay, so any athlete will tell you, it's fine that you're talented, but you also need to practice. And if you hate the training, you'll have a hard time keeping up and being persistent. So you need to actually like it. Also, if you really want to do athletes as a career, you'll participate in 2 Olympics, but then, surprise, surprise, you'll be 35 or 40, and it's over. Now, do you want to be in the athletics business? Do you want to become coach? Do you want to be in the association? Because if you really like it, cool. But if it's only because you're good at it, you're going to end up doing something that you're not really passionate about, and that for the long run, it's not economically stable. So that's also not really good strategy. Just go for what you're good at and forget the rest. And here's the tricky one. Most of you, I hope not, but many of you or your friends will graduate from college, just like me and many of my friends, and a lot of the people around you, here's what they're going to do. They're going to go out to the market, whether they understand their business units or not, and they're going to say, who is willing to pay me the most? And I'm willing to do whatever it is they ask. I've got student loans. I want to, run fast and advance my career. It's my 20s, yada, yada. So you go and, go and close with the highest bidder. And then 2 years pass. and you figure out you don't like this company, you don't like the boss, you don't like the product, you don't like the customers, you don't like the team, you want to give Pharaoh the finger. Great. You're a hero for 48 hours. You're going to look for your passion and for the next job that will make you satisfied and fulfilled. But now you have 2 years of experience, you demand more. So you go out to the market and you say, hey market, here's who I am now with this 2-year experience, who's willing now to pay me the most, and I'll go do whatever it is you ask. And you go and work for them. And surprise, surprise, 2 years later, you don't like the company, you don't like the product, you don't like the customers, you don't like the culture around you, you don't like the industry, you leave. And you'll do that for a lot of time until you'll be worn out and you'll feel like, oh, this is a dead end, and whatever. And it ends up in two extremes. Either you do something extreme to change your entire career, or you say, it's just a job, it's to pay the bills, and you literally go from trying to despair without stopping in the middle and doing something about it. And a lot of people are looking out there for the job that will solve them the why without understanding that they need to come up with a why and sell that to the employer, the customer. So most people will do that, and that's how you end up in your 40s, in a career life crisis, whatever. Because you're going to end up doing something that you're not necessarily good at and that you necessarily do not like. Not a good path for happiness. So of course you should go and aim for the middle, for the shared zone. And you need to ask yourselves, what am I passionate about that I can also be good at? And how does that add value out there so I can get paid for it? And that shared zone is probably where your calling is. Your calling is not just where your passion is, your calling is also where you can be unique and valuable. So you need the other two circles. And when you find that shared zone, it's another thing that I wrote about, then you're really on your way. Now, if I go back to Moses as an entrepreneur, just to wrap this up, this is not some sort of an epic Exodus story where, Moses take the Israelites out to the desert or whatever. In today's world of work, Pharaoh is coming to you, the Moses, because you're the Moses of your own career, and telling you, take your stuff and get out. Because Pharaoh is a business unit too. So you need to figure this out, and you need to think about those things, because you will face them out there in the market whether you want to or not. You can shut your eyes, ears, and mouth for a while. You can pretend it's just a job and you're looking for, be an employee and zigzag and, climb your way up the ladder. But the world of work has changed, whether you like it or not. And it's not only frightening, it's also exciting because it creates a lot of opportunities. You just need to think like business units. So I would say find a promised land that's worth looking for, because when you find it, you understand that it's worth waiting for. When you find it, you understand that it's worth losing for. And when you find it, you understand that it's worth living for. The reason it's called business, it's because that's what you really want to be busy with. So you need to answer that to yourselves. And then you're able to do something that for you will really be epic and meaningful for your lives. That's how I believe you should do it. And when you find that, by the way, you discover that the chase is just better than the catch. There is no end game. You want to do it for the rest of your life. So I don't know how many of you remember the movie Matrix, but I would say this. You can go for the blue pill and say, oh, that was an interesting talk, and Assaf was, is an engaging speaker or whatever. And go out there and continue sending CVs and look for the job that will fulfill you without taking ownership of your own career. That's not going to work. You can live in the matrix for a while, but the matrix will spew you out. It'll spit you out. So I say go for the red pill today. Understand that college is a huge platform of opportunity. It's not just a school. You're not here just for the education. It's far beyond that, but it's just like a trampoline. It's an opportunity if you bounce. If you stay still, it's not a good place to be comfortable at. So use the platform that you're in right now, make the most out of it, and take ownership of that journey, because that's how you end up succeeding is a business unit, and that's how I believe you can really hack the new world of work. Thank you.